Mr. Sassi, how have you been?
Good. How have you been?
Oh, great, thank you. Haven't seen you for a long time.
I know
Yeah. So, what are the updates? What have you been working on? What is new?
it's new. The market is picking up again,
Yeah.
so it's really good, and we're getting a lot more offers on listings. So I think the spring market might be a little bit hard.
We showed the property in Ajax last week. It was listed for $899. We looked at the property with our buyers and they really liked it. And today was the offer date. And we went ahead and prepared the offer and we sent it to them at the full asking price, no conditions, a big deposit, and the closing that they really wanted, which is at the beginning of June. We sent it to them, and then other offers started coming in.
Wow.
It was 5 offers, then it went to 8, it went to 12. It was 4 o'clock. That there were 24 offers.
Wow.
24 offers, and I notified the buyers that there were 24 offers. What do you want to do? And they're like, let's improve. So we improved it to a million. They were asking 899. And next thing that we know, there's actually 38 offers.
Wow.
Yeah, so now it's 6 o'clock. There were 38 offers. And I go back to the buyers and ask them, what do you want to do? And they're like, okay, we'll improve it. We went to 1.1 million.
Mhm.
And I just checked my phone and I got an email and I showed you. And it says that there are 50 offers.
Wow, that's crazy.
There are 50 offers on a single property. So that means that there are 49 other buyers who will be left out.
Yeah.
And only one buyer will get the property.
Wow.
So where do all these buyers come from, and how did they manage to buy a home in this market?
I think the buyers have always been there. It's just that with the interest rate going up, they were just on a little bit on the sideline, and they noticed that with the Toronto real estate market, the rent price is going skyrocketing. And even today, I had somebody reaching out to me for rental property for one bedroom, like in Scarborough. Like nothing was there for 2,200 for condo. That's like surprising, right? Like a few years ago, for 1,600, you can get a one bedroom condo, right? So that's why like a lot of people who are out there renting, they're like, rent price is going crazy, so might as well get back on the market and buy the property now before even rent prices even go a lot more higher.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The rentals have gone up, and it's actually surprising that despite the highest interest rates that we've seen in the last 15 years, there's unprecedented demand from the buyers. There are 50 offers on properties that we get. The properties are selling 300,000 over asking price, and they're willing to pay that higher rate.
Yeah.
And the question is, where are we going with all of this? What are you predicting in the next 6 months, 12 months, in the next year?
I think the market's going to pick back up because all those people who are waiting on the sideline, now they want to buy. They're like, rent prices going up, and most of them expecting interest rate to go back down by end of this year, hopefully even by next year, right? So a lot of people are trying to capitalize on the lower price what it was in 2021 beginning.
Sassy, I always wanted to ask you, how did you really get in the real estate business?
How did I get into real estate?
Yeah, like what got you into real estate business in the beginning?
Well, I went to school for business HR, right? And one of the interesting factors I noticed that, right, at the top CEOs out there, 80% of them, they held a sales job, and I wasn't a salesperson, right? So I told myself, if I'm going to be selling something, I'm going to be selling the most expensive product, right? And that's how I got into real estate.
So you just decided that you're going to be selling the most expensive product.
And yeah, to build my skills. Also at that time, I purchased a home, right? And I seen how much the price was going up, and I'm like, this is something interesting, and it's something I should look into it, and maybe down the road I'll buy more investment property. And that's how I got it. I'm like, this is something interests me, and if I can help people with my knowledge and skills, what I learn, and if I can show them how to do it, it'll be really beneficial for everybody, and I'll be happy to help other people.
Yeah, of course. And that is really encouraging. What did you find the most challenging to be in the Toronto real estate market?
Toronto real estate market is one of the largest real estate market, right? And there's way too many, that's a lot of realtors, but there are a lot of bad realtors and very few good realtors. So when you deal with buyers and sellers, they have a lot of bad experience with the previous realtors and other realtors. They think all realtors are equally, they're all equal. It takes a little bit of effort and energy to educate them and explain how some realtors are different. And most of them are like 80% of the realtors like part-time, right? There's 80-20. 20% of the realtors makes 80% of the income, right? So that's what I try to explain to them.
Yeah. So most challenging is the fact that there's a lot of competition. Looks like, right?
Yeah. So when it comes to Toronto, there's a lot of competition in Toronto real estate market with a lot of realtors, but most of them are underqualified.
Most of them are underqualified. Exactly. Yeah. So Sassy, I was really wondering at the present time, in 2023, what are some of the trends that you're noticing in the market, and what do you suggest to the real estate agents to do to adapt to these trends?
I see the market is like changing, right? And this market involves a lot more skills, a lot more training, and you got to be a lot more focused and disciplined. It's not like what was real estate a few years ago, where the properties were moving easily. Right now, you got to be a lot more aware of the market, price it right, and be communicating with your clients and educating them, explain to them what's happening in the market.
Right. And are there any specific trends that you're seeing that pick up this year that you hadn't seen before?
The trend I seen this year compared to the trend in the back, there's a lot of things happening in the world, and you don't know what's going to happen. In the past and stuff, we can predict or have some sort of understanding what can happen. Like, and since the COVID-19, there's a lot of variables and factors were affecting, and now there's like Ukraine war and all the like China and America. A lot of issues were happening, and with the interest rate, inflation, there's so many variables, hard to see where the market's going. There's a lot of variables. I'll be like more pay attention to what's happening in the outside world and what's happening here.
And you're absolutely right. One of the trends that we are seeing in this market is the trend of the number of immigrants that are coming into the country continuously growing. In 2022 alone, we had about 1 million people that have come to Canada, and what has attributed to this unprecedented spike in immigration is, of course, the war in Ukraine, the fall of Afghanistan due to Taliban, the terrific earthquakes in Turkey. The instability in the world creates a higher demand for immigration to Canada. And that's one of the trends that we had seen. And plus, on top of that, the Immigration Canada has increased its targets of the people that should come into the country.
Mm-hmm.
So the trend that we're seeing is a spike in immigration and the people that live in the country. And what I really wanted to ask you is, how much do you think the spike in immigration is directly impacting the housing prices?
The immigration plays a major role in the housing price. In order to meet Canadian demand, the housing shortage, we need to build 50% more home. And we don't already have enough home, and we're bringing 1 million immigrants just last year alone. So where are these people going to stay? Right? That's the main reason rent prices are going. There's low inventory, and a lot of people are coming, and not enough houses. I believe that it's going to drive up the housing price and the rent price for the next few years, especially this year, if we don't keep up with the supply and build a lot more homes.
Yeah, I agree with you that there is a significant low supply for housing to really house these markets, these people. And what we had seen is that there was a loophole for Canadian immigration for people to come illegally and cross the border. And one of those loopholes was in Quebec, Roxham Road, right? And so many people have taken advantage of Roxham Road that have come and claimed their asylum in the country. And the Canadian government welcomed them with open arms. And what ended up happening is that the people took advantage of it. And in 2020, it had a dip because of COVID. In 2021, it went up. Approximately 20,000 people alone came through Roxham Road. In 2022, there were approximately 40,000 people who've crossed the road, which left Canadian government unprepared, and they've left them really in a place to be scrambling where to house all of these people. And do you know where they've taken them?
Where?
To hotels.
Yeah.
So Canadian government, they contracted out entire hotels throughout Quebec, throughout Ontario, and some parts of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. They've taken the whole hotels and made it a refugee housing center. So they've taken all these refugees and placing them in these hotels until the paperwork gets processed, until they find a job, they get their work permit, they get their own place. And all of this has put an unprecedented pressure on the Canadian government to actually do something about Roxham Road. And just this week, the United States President Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau, they've met, and one of many things that they've discussed is the third country safekeeping act that Canada has been welcoming all these refugees, and it says that anyone who wants to claim asylum in the country, it has to be done in the first country that they arrive in, which is US.
Yes.
Right? But that is only required at all officials' entry points. And Roxham Road was not an official entry point. Get some water if you want. It's not an official entry point. So these people have been taking advantage of it and crossing illegally into the country. And that has changed. Now, people can no longer cross Roxham Road and expect the same treatment as they've done before. So now what it's actually going to end up happening, people that come to Roxham Road are going to be transferred to an official port of entry and going to be looked at case by case scenarios. And if they do actually qualify to be a refugee, they're going to be let in and start their working process.
Yeah.
And Canada plans to bring in about 15,000 refugees through their borders this year.
That's great.
And turn back all the rest.
Okay.
So all the people that are coming now, they're being turned down and sent to US.
Yeah. I think we do need the immigration. There's a big shortage of certain jobs that needs to be filled. Like especially when the pandemic was happening, there was shortage of construction workers, plumbers, electricians. That's why building costs was going up with the raw material and shortage of like certain industries, nurse, doctors. I believe it's good that we're bringing immigrants. At the same time, we should make the process a lot better for them to get a job here. Because we have a lot of highly educated doctors and stuff, but they can't do their job here because of so many red tapes holding them back.
Exactly. There are a lot of red tapes that's holding them back. And Sassy, one of the other things that I wanted to ask you is that being in this challenging market where there is not enough housing, there is spiking immigration. This is the highest rates that we've seen in 15 years.
Yeah.
How do you manage a work-life balance?
Work-life balance, especially in this market with inflation's going up, and so it's hard to go out. Everything became more expensive. I believe in this market, you gotta be tight on your spending habit, right? And you gotta make a lot more, because the interest rate is going up, and because the debt rate is really high on per household now than ever, right? And so we have to see what we can do as a home, stay at home instead of going out to eat, have friends over at your home,
Right.
And do like outdoor activities, a lot more healthy activities, right? That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I really wanted to ask you this all the time.
Yeah.
Throughout your career, looking back all the way to the beginning until now, what has been the most memorable experience that you had?
Most memorable experience. Most memorable experience is when the market, when 2017, right? When market was super hot, and I was working with a lot of buyers, and I see a house was like flying. It's like nothing, and I felt like this is not sustainable. Something has to happen, and that's when the government stepped in and they brought a foreign buyer tax, 15%, and next month the market dipped like overnight, right? That's one of the memorable moments where I seen houses. This house got sold for several $100,000 over asking. Next house just had drywalls, wasn't even renovated, and it got sold for much higher than that house. So the house was just flying like it's monopoly.
Yeah, I do remember that time as well, and it was memorable. I remember in March, the market was on fire.
Yeah.
And at the end of March, three things happened. Number one, the interest went up. Number two, the government implemented the stress test for all the purchasers in the country, which means that they gotta be qualified 20 basis points, which means that they gotta be qualified 200 basis points or 2 full percent above the qualifying rate. Yep, absolutely. But Sassy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're always close to my heart. Thank you very much for coming. And we look forward to having you more in the future. Okay. Thank you, Sassy.